Hi, everybody. I'm Damon Cooper, your host for today. Welcome to the Sharpen Podcast, brought to you by Acumen. It's an exclusive community of CEOs and business owners to help you grow your top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich your storyline. You can't predict tragedy, and yet you can prepare for it. So that's what we're hoping to communicate today as we discuss leading through tragedy. Today, my guest is Fred Jentgen, who is starting a new Acumen team in the sunny city of Phoenix, Arizona, which is probably why he's always smiling. He's smiling now. He's always wearing less clothes than we are. And I'm jealous of him. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
You bet. So it's good to have you here. Give us the 90-second elevator. You recently joined Acumen as a growth catalyst, which is our fancy word for team facilitator. Who are you? What do you do? And why are you here?
Great. My name's Fred Jentgen. I am currently an EOS implementer. I am the owner and founder of Unleashed Consulting Group, in which I do EOS work underneath. And as you mentioned, I'm just recently joined the Acumen team and looking to kick up some dust here in Arizona, specifically Phoenix, and start teams here in the Acumen way.
So why Acumen? Why would you do this?
Great. So a little bit of my background. I started my journey as a sales and marketing leader for a leading technology company here in the Phoenix area. And boy, right off the bat, I experienced the failures of business. The product line that I was initially on and trying to drive into the market, technology just didn't pan out at all for the product. So we were out in the market making lots of promises and we couldn't deliver on those. And so we mothballed that project right off the bat. Started on another team, and this team had a much better product experience, successful product, delivered on all of his promises, took that to market, was rolling along. But then we had one of our leaders on that team that just was not aligned to the vision, went rogue, and it consumed the team, trying to deal with that individual going sideways. And so, and we waited too long to make a change there. And so I hear that often in my EOS practice these days. But that was a key learning for me early in my career. And then the third option at that same company worked really, really well. We had taken the time to back up, crystallize our vision, reset the leadership team, make sure everybody was on board. And from that point, we were able to drive significant sustained revenue for over 15 years. And so great ride in that business, and formed a good portion of my career. And we'll talk a little bit about that today, I think.
Yeah.
One of my favorite roles in that was leading our sales and marketing channel for the Americas. And in that role, I worked with big companies, the Dells, the HPs, the Microsofts of the world. And I worked with a lot of technology entrepreneurs. And it was the technology entrepreneurs that I really enjoyed. I loved their grit. I loved their passion. They were always all in our partnership. And we had great success working together. And so the way that I worked with those smaller entrepreneur technology companies was through actually a peer group type of orchestration that we had. We had engaged a peer group organization that was in place, and we were finding that to approach the small business space, very fragmented all over the place, how do you approach them well? We were finding that all of the leading technology small businesses were part of this organization. And so I became fascinated with what a peer group organization could do for a small business. And so we partnered through that peer group organization. So um, I also learned during that time that, man, owning a small business is really, really hard. I became really good friends with a number of the folks in our channel and was just hearing the struggles they were having with their health, the struggles they were having with their family life because they were so consumed in their business. And I knew there was a better way to work that out. And so it became a passion of mine to help business leaders be their best, both in their business, but also in their life as well. And so that's when Unleashed Consulting was formed. I reached a point in my career at that business where all of a sudden it wasn't fulfilling for me anymore. And so I decided to take the leap and start Unleashed Consulting to help business leaders be their best, both in business and in life. And that's what sprung me into the life of entrepreneurship myself, run my own practice, starting EOS, and then ultimately what's leading me to be part of Acumen today.
That's a good story. And we're glad you're a part of our storyline. So welcome in. It's good to have you here. All right, so let's talk about one of those teams. You and I were talking one time, and we were talking about tragedy, and you told me this a terrible story, and at the same time a great story. So, give us a quick background and context of your team you were leading at the time, and then what happened.
Yeah, so I'm leading one of the marketing teams, the America's marketing team at this technology company that I was describing. And it was a strong team, high trust. We were performing really, really well. It was a time when the business was growing. We had set some really aggressive goals for the year. This is a 2009, let's say the fall of 2009, and business had picked back up after some slow times in 2008. And so set a great plan out, teams rocking and rolling. And one of my team members out of the blue shares the news that he has been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And this is a young teammate. He's 36, has a young family. And so just totally unexpected. Um, uh, we all know we're going to die at some point, but you're not thinking it's going to happen at 36. And clean lifestyle, no symptoms or anything that you would think would have this gentleman have cancer at that age. And so, um, yeah, so he shared pretty openly his journey battling cancer. It was about, I think, 8 months he battled, and did a couple rounds of chemo, had some great success, came back with a vengeance, and tried some other rounds and different cocktails, and ultimately 8 months later, he passed. And the road over those 8 months was sometimes working as normal, but intermittently being treated, and just a whole roller coaster of ups and downs of that battle and how that was progressing over time. And so, yeah, that that was how I found out about it, if you will, or how it impacted us.
Or So how did you react? So you're leading a team. They're all looking at you. Obviously, there's management involved of a precarious situation. Um, how did you react? And then let the team react.
Yeah, it was great. Gentleman's name was Eric, and uh, Eric was like the core member of the team. Had been in the team for I probably worked with him 7 years at the time, and was a senior guy, was one that represented our organization, could step in for me as the manager whenever I needed, and work with our executives. And so just kind of a cornerstone, outstanding player. And so it shocked everybody. Um, and maybe more shocking was that as he's kind of walking through the journey, um, Caring Bridge was kind of in its early days back in 2009, 2010, or at least it was in terms of my exposure to it. And he would blog every day about what was going on. And so the roller coaster became very real to many of us that hadn't experienced cancer firsthand. And so it impacted us in all the ways that finding out that someone close to you has cancer impacts you. It was hard. I remember conversations with people on the team where I come in and they were angry, just angry at what Eric had written about how his day was going, how he was built had been dealt these cards, and yet here he was a man of faith, and he would share the hope he had in the light in light of what was going on, and they didn't buy it. They were really wrestling with that, and it didn't feel like um, they couldn't respond the same way. And so, yeah, one day you walk in the office and yeah, just so the roller coaster was being felt all over the organization, ups and downs. I felt it myself. I started um, wondering how are we gonna move forward um, in the midst of the roller coaster. How can we honor Eric? How can we help him and his family? So I guess as a manager, I don't know how common this is. I didn't often think about my teammates and my employees' families, um, um, other than, hey, I want to provide for them. I want to make sure that they have a fulfilling job, make sure that it fits within their life plan for themselves. But I didn't engage that deeply with their families at the time. And so now all of a sudden that starts to consume you a bit. You start to, okay, what Eric's day is clearly he's writing about it each day. Um, it's an open book, and his kids don't understand why he's sick. Kids don't understand why he's uh, got to go to the doctor again. And then when he gets home, then why he's got to work, why he can't play with them. So just all this environment that isn't a typical day of a manager, or hadn't been a typical day as a manager of an organization up to that point for me. Um, the rest of the team, it was interesting. Um, as they were going through that, I started to see some of them. Again, it was a pretty trusting team, um, high performing team. And so where Eric was unavailable, where he was falling short, we were running an event series that he was leading kind of the campaign for that. And he wasn't traveling anymore. He wasn't able to spearhead that effort, and the team just started stepping up. It just, okay, what cities can I cover for you? Um, what roles? And so there was some goodness that we discovered in learnings that having that role clarity, um, having clear goals and clear plans mapped out, um, uh, really paid off, and then allowed us to, I think, serve Eric in a much more human way, right? Instead of just being employees, teammates, we became family, right? People would step up and cover for one another, and that was in the midst of that. That was a great joy to be part of that team, to be able to serve the team by leading him through that.
So the first part is triage, like figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah.
The second part is like let's be humans, and let's start to look at the person. It's interesting. You're then opening the kimono and like looking then behind the person into their family. So as this evolves, um, how did you end up leading through it?
Yeah. You know, we I didn't have a master plan at all. You did it catches you by surprise, for sure. And so um, you go back to basics, and you triage, as you mentioned, right? And so um, what's the status? What's the expectation? There's a lot of unknowns in a cancer journey, um, and um, and so uh, we were very deliberate about creating space um, for Eric. We were um, we he was automatically sharing very openly on Caring Bridge, which I remember him asking at one point. I was checking in with him, um, probably if not daily, every other day, just to see how things were going. And uh, he's like, "Is it too much? Am I sharing too much?" And I was like, "Boy, this you're having an impact on the organization um, that is way bigger than the impact you've had on the organization prior to your cancer." And I said, just keep doing what you're doing. And so, but that you had to create a space for the organization and the other teammates to digest and to experience the roller coaster and go through the range of emotions that they were going through. Um, once Eric passed, uh, then it shifted a lot, right? It was
Hmm.
celebration of life. People, I mean, then it even changed for me as the leader. I'm like, okay, he's not getting better. He didn't get better, and we've got a massive hole in the team. What do we do? Um, and so, and you're like, you're never gonna replace this guy. Yeah, should should I just go find another another role, go change businesses, go do something else? So you kind of really got to go through a whole introspection of, okay, what is my purpose? What is my vision? What do I um why am I in this business and in this role? Reroute and ground yourself. Um and you're going through this perspective when a 36-year-old passes unexpectedly. um, it really impacts you in terms of, okay, life is short, and while um, I have amnesia about how short it is, and I feel like I'm invincible sometimes, and I'm never going to die. Staring mortality in the face forces you to do some deep introspection. And I just, for me, it resolved itself into, okay, life's short, make the most of it. Carpe diem, right? Seize the day. Don't waste time in jobs or roles or in businesses that you're unfulfilled in. It really gave me a deep conviction about that. And be your best every day. And so um, that was what I had to digest and kind of do myself, and then get on to let's go, let's go hire somebody to fill the gap we had into the organization. The good news in that, I've been through enough hiring processes over the years to know that it doesn't always end up this way. But all my beliefs that we're never going to hire somebody like Eric to fill this role, how are we going to survive? We ended up with another rock star through the process, and it just continued to strengthen the team moving forward.
So if it's, man, there's a lot in there. So if you were going to get practical and tactical about how to prepare and or
Mhm.
um, how to lead through it, what would be like the checklist of things that you would suggest?
Yeah, great. I think understanding your purpose and being rooted in um, how you're wired, and placing yourself in a place where you can carry out that purpose, probably first and foremost, right? Um, and don't waste time, right? Seize the day. Those are two major learnings. In terms of the business side and managing, um, I come back to EOS basics that I teach to lots of different teams. Um, but you really need role clarity. And so what are what are the seats in your organization that you have to have? Defining what are those roles for each of the seats, making that public to all of the team so that there's clarity across the organization, um, so that it doesn't all have to be funneled up the chain of command, and um, the organization can go to the right people first, versus trying to guess and communicating to everybody. Some of those fundamentals are really helped us to navigate it. We had strong role clarity. Trust is something you have to build. We had it in this team, which I think really facilitated um, both compassion and empathy for the situation when you found yourself in the midst of it, as well as the willingness to serve one another, to step in to fill the gap for the team. That those are all big things that I think prepare for those things, cultivate those elements in your team. Um, yeah, it's too late if you don't have, tragedies upon you and you don't have those in place. It's going to be a lot bumpier. If you take the time up front to have that role clarity, to build trust, then I think you can weather it a whole lot better.
What would be your version of that while you're in the midst of the chaos? What what things would
Mhm.
you advice would you give for people?
Yeah, I think in the midst of the chaos, keep it simple. It's complicated, right? You throw in
Mm,
all the emotions that chaos brings, that cancer brings to a team. Simple, communicate regularly. I think one of the things that I I I learned and both implemented a little bit in Eric's um, journey was communicating on a regular basis. And I had a leader in the organization that had demonstrated that. And the individual that this leader had worked with had said after they had recovered and made it through their chaos, um, had come back and said, every day I got a call from this leader just to check in. What do you need? And so that was some incredible role modeling that wasn't part of my nature and part of my normal management um, regiment. And so that became something that was modeled for me that I started doing with Eric, and it was huge. And so I think creating that type of relationship with your employees and that kind of communication, it's not necessary all the time. You certainly can't, I don't call all my employees. I didn't after that situation either every day. It just is not
Right.
feasible. But when somebody's going through crisis or a tragedy or the chaos, checking in with them on a regular basis, super important lesson. It's the human side, right? It's the way we're there for one another.
Yeah, some other things I heard you say, get back to the basics. So your simplify is like just get back to the basics. We don't need to make any complex. It's already complex, so don't exacerbate it through strategy and or leadership stuff. Allow space. I think it's hard to allow space in a time when we're just all executing and the whirlwind is real and you still have deadlines and customers and so but to allow space for conversation and contemplation is good. And then this is a bit of an acumenism, but you just said it is just show up. So many people are like, well, I don't know what to do, or do I need to ask permission? The answer is they don't know what they need. So just show up, and then they'll know that you care. Because if you ask them what they want, they don't know. They have 20 people asking you. So just show up.
Yeah, back in 2010, um, we were all co-located for the most part. And so showing up, it could have been on the phone, but oftentimes it was walking around and just that was something that I was known for. I would walk around and manage and just engage people. I had a rough time staying in my seat, and so I think that doing that um, and not worrying about the awkwardness, not worrying about what words can you say, how's it, you you gotta show up, and that's way more impactful than saying the wrong thing. They're gonna know you care because you're checking in.
I appreciate you sharing that experience. So here's our bonus question. We are Acumen is a plain glass organization. By that we mean we're people and performance and profit and excellence, and yet we have a stained glass heart. And you intimated to some of that when you talked about faith and hope. So our stained glass is that we're all on the Jesus journey somewhere, and we're just trying to live out the values to the best that we can in our relationship with Him. So, given that, what's one way you integrate this plain glass world with your stained glass life?
Yeah, it's great. Great question. Yeah, I feel like I integrate my my faith journey, my relationship with Jesus, in that, well, I try to do it all the time, and integrate it in everything that I do, but it shows up most in situations like what we just talked about. Um, you don't start a job, you don't enter employment thinking it's a life and death kind of situation, right? You're not that you're going to encounter that these people are going to become family to me. And so, yeah, as you, I think, as you live out your faith in the midst of that, there's a hope. There's um, there's a way that I engage folks in life and death circumstances that help navigate this tragedy, right? Navigate
Mm.
this. And so, um, yeah, I really enjoy those conversations. And so, if you enjoy that, then as you encounter them, then in the midst of that tragedy, in the midst of all of that, you can be light to people that they need a light. They can't see which way they're going because the chaos, the tragedies made it really dark for them. And so, yeah, that's how I integrate it.
That's powerful. Thank you. All right. Where can our listeners find out about more you, Fred?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is probably the best way. Uh, Fred Jentgen, Jentgen is how you spell my last name. Find out on LinkedIn. The Acumen website's a great place. You can find out more. And if you're interested in joining our teams here in the Phoenix area, would love to have a conversation with you. And uh, EOS website, EOS directory as well. EOS is a big part of my business practice in Unleashed Consulting today. So 3 easy ways.
3 easy ways. The hardest thing is spelling your name for sure, of all of those things that you said. Fred, thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom. And we look forward to see what you build in Phoenix.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a great one.